Hey guys, Chris Fix here, and today I'm going to show you what you should do before you go to start a car that's been sitting for a long time. And by a long time, I mean the car's been sitting without being started or moved for at least 4 to 6 months or longer. In this case, I got this Mustang from an online auction. I'll be turning it into a drift car. The problem is, I don't know if it starts. But I do know the car's been sitting for a while. So even though I really want to see if the car is going to start up, before we do that, I want to go over a couple important things to check so we don't cause any damage to the engine when we go to start it. That being said, the first thing to check was this key was really hard to get in and out. In's not too bad, but getting it out's a little tough. But luckily, a sticking key is usually a quick and easy fix. So to fix the sticking ignition lock, we're going to be using one of these dry lubricant sprays. But instead of me just fixing it real quick, I wanted to show you guys how a lock actually works and why it's hard for your key to move in and out. So there are two main reasons why your key might be hard to move in and out of the lock. And the first reason is every time you put your key in your pocket, you have a chance of getting lint on the key, and then when you go use the key in your lock, you force that lint in here and it just gums things up. The other reason is, watch these pins right here. You can see when you push the key in, the pins move out of the way and become even so that you could pop the lock open or start the car. So if these pins aren't lubricated, it could be difficult to move the key in and out. So what we're going to do is we're going to spray a dry lock lube. It's a dry lubricant. It goes in wet and then the liquid evaporates and provides lubrication so the key could slide in and out without getting hung up. So you can see how well the lubrication worked in here. Now let's go try this out in the Mustang. So make sure you roll down a window or leave a door open or something. So just shake this up, and you really don't need a lot, just a little burst. Work our key in, let's see. Alright, now that is a lot better. And that's the first fix on our Mustang. In this video, I'm going to show you tons of little tips and tricks just like this, and at the end of this video, we're going to go try to start this car and see if she runs. Cars are not meant to sit around, they're meant to be used. So when they sit around, one of the biggest problems is parts get rusty, and the fluids in the engine and transmission and all of that start to break down. So with the car off the ground, I'm going to show you how to get this car ready so we could safely start the engine. Alright, the first thing to do is get under the hood and check the engine oil. Actually, before we even do that, when a car sits, animals like to make your car their new home. So they'll build nests out of straw and leaves, which could easily catch fire with a hot engine. So take a look around and make sure you don't see any nests from animals anywhere in the engine. The other place to look is in the grill and also down below the grill. Not only for animals, but leaves and debris starts getting stuck up here, which will cause your car to overheat when you first start it. And actually, you can see right here, it looks like we have a bird of some sort. Actually, it looks like a hummingbird that kind of got wedged up here and stuck. So real quick, just look for stuff like this and nests from animals. So the first fluid we want to check, and probably the most important fluid to check, is the engine oil, because it's the lifeblood of your engine. Imagine if we went to start the engine and there happens to be little to no oil in there. Or if the oil's old and broken down and provides no protection. You could cause some serious damage. And you can see here, we're very low on oil. Actually, I wonder if there's even any oil in this engine. So let's drain it and find out. I want to catch an oil sample to get analyzed, which could give us some useful information on the condition of the engine. So just loosen the drain plug and drain the oil. Gotta catch some oil for the sample. Good. And with the oil completely drained, screw in the plug and tighten it down. Not too much, just so that it's snug. Wipe the remaining oil off, and let's remove the oil filter. Now this filter is mounted sideways, and I hate when they design it like that because it makes it a complete mess to remove. To combat that mess, a tip I have is to use tin foil right underneath the filter to funnel the oil as you remove the filter. See what I mean? Look at the oil getting everywhere. But luckily, the tin foil trick works pretty good. Now we can install the new filter. Remove the foil for a quick and easy cleanup, and only hand tighten the filter. There's no need to get it any tighter than that. And I always write the current mileage on the oil filter so I won't forget it. Now all we need to do is fill the engine with oil. Grab a funnel, and an awesome tip is to pour the oil from the container sideways, just like this. When you pour it sideways, notice the oil pours out smoothly, and it isn't coming out in waves, which usually makes a mess. I'm using full synthetic high mileage motor oil, which is perfect for this engine, and the stresses we're going to be putting it through as a drift car. Alright, so checking and changing your engine oil is probably one of the most important things you could do before starting an engine that's been sitting for a while. The next very important thing that we're going to do is we're going to be using some fogging oil in each of the cylinders to lubricate the cylinder walls before we start the engine. So when an engine sits for a long time, all the oil drips down to the bottom of the drain pan. Even the oil that's supposed to be coating the cylinders slowly makes its way down, so the cylinders are completely dry. And that's where the fogging oil comes into play. To fog the engine, remove the spark plug wire, and then remove the spark plug. And since we have to take the spark plugs out to fog the cylinders, now's a good time to inspect the spark plugs. You want to make sure that there's no cracks in this ceramic here. If there is, you have to replace it. And you want to look at the area that's in the engine and sparks. You want to make sure it's not gummed up with oil. If it is, clean it off or replace them. And you also want to check the gap. On this Mustang, the gap's supposed to be 0.055 of an inch. So we take our gapping tool, we take our spark plug, and we gently move it across until it kind of gets stuck. And you can see it's starting to get stuck around 0.055. You want to be careful with these platinum plugs. You don't really want to rub against them hard because you'll remove the platinum coating. The electrode here doesn't look horrible, but these are probably the original Ford plugs, so they really should be replaced. But I think a really cool video would be putting this car on the dyno and testing different brand spark plugs and seeing what makes the most power. So I'm gonna wait to change these until then. Now to fog the cylinder, all you're gonna do is go into the spark plug hole with the spray and hold the trigger down for 1 or 2 seconds. Just like that. And what it does is it puts a thin coat of oil on the cylinder walls and piston rings because extra lubrication is never a bad thing. Now I'm going to spray this stuff in each cylinder. So there's 4 on this side, 4 on that side, and that's going to completely lubricate the upper combustion chamber. Alright, now with all the cylinders fogged over and lubricated, we have something else that's very important that we need to do with any car that's been sitting for a while. And that is draining the gas tank. Old gas doesn't burn as good as new gas, plus old gas can clog up the fuel system, so we need to remove the old gas and add in some new gas. So grab a hose and push it down until it hits the bottom of the tank. Now grab a pump and connect the hose to the pump so you can pump out the gas. Then start pumping the gas out and have an empty gas container ready. Once the gas starts running down the hose, it's going to create suction and pull the rest of the gas in the tank out with it. So you can remove the pump, just try not to make a mess, like me. And the key to making this work is to have the end of the hose below the car's gas tank, like this. So now we have gravity doing our work. The gasoline's getting pulled down by gravity, and it's going right into the tank. And once you remove the hand pump, it's actually a decent flow. So be sure to have an extra gas tank, just in case this one fills up. Alright, so we just ran out of gas, which is good. That means our tank is empty, and that is all there is to it. So we siphoned the whole tank empty. There might be a little bit of gas left in there, but now we'll put some fresh gas in there. It'll dilute any of the bad gas that's remaining in here, and it should be good enough to start. And in this case, we removed about 7 to 8 gallons of gas, and you're probably wondering, okay, so what do I do with all this gas? Your local recycle center will take the gas because you don't know if it's any good. Or you could try running this stuff in your lawnmower. And if it runs in the lawnmower, then you know the gas is still good. Now with the old gas removed and some fresh gas in the tank, the last thing we want to do before we start the engine is check the coolant. We want to check the level, which you can see on the side here, and the coolant has to be filled to that line right there. And then we want to open up our coolant reservoir and use one of these hydrometers. And these are actually really inexpensive. And all you do is you put it inside the reservoir, you squeeze the bulb up here, and it'll take a sample for you. And you can see our sample is brightly colored. Just give it a tap, make sure there's no air bubbles. And then we want to check this temperature here. So we look here, this is Fahrenheit in the blue, and we're protected to negative 35 degrees around there, and that's exactly where we want to be for a 50-50 mix. So a combination of bright colored coolant, whether it's orange, whether it's green, purple, whatever color your coolant is, you want it to be brightly colored, and then it should protect to negative 34 degrees Fahrenheit, which this is. So our cooling system is in good shape. And I'll wait till later down the road to change the coolant. After doing the coolant, we're technically safe, so we could start the engine. But before we start the engine, there's a few more things that I want to cover just to be extra safe, such as the power steering fluid right here. The power steering fluid's really easy to check. You can see here it says minimum and maximum, so it has to be between these two lines, and it's filled right at the top, which is good. The next fluid to check is another non-essential for running the engine, but it's very essential for stopping the car if we take it for a test drive, and that's checking the brake fluid. On the side of the brake fluid, there's a max line right up here, and there's a minimum line right down here. So you want to make sure the brake fluid's in between both of those lines. If your brakes are worn out, your brake fluid's going to be on the lower end, and if your brakes are brand new, it's probably going to be on the upper end. Alright, this is really exciting. Our fluids are changed, we have fresh fluids, fresh oil, so now we're going to go see if we could start the car. I think the battery's going to be dead. I charged it up, but I think it's really bad. Yeah, I got nothing. So we're going to go put a jump starter on the battery. Now I don't know if you guys have ever seen these mini jump starters, but they are great. You get the cables, and then you get the mini jump starter. Check this out. That's going to start the car. Just pop that open, plug this in, and we're ready to go. Black to the negative, red to the positive. All right, let's see what we got here. Come on, baby, start up. Oh. Come on. Come on. So I'm not gonna go diagnose this now. We're not gonna go test all the different systems, but what I think it might be a fuel pump. Not completely sure, so we're gonna test that theory out with some starter fluid. So with the air box off, we're gonna go try to start the car, and I'm gonna add starter fluid. Go ahead, start her up. Oh man, that is exciting. That is what I'm talking about. The car is running. This is awesome. So right now it is literally running on the starter fluid. Now if that doesn't get your heart going, I don't know what does. I am pumped. So the starting fluid worked. I think the fuel pump is bad. I'm gonna go do a fuel pressure test and all that other stuff. That's gonna be in the next video of the series on building this drift car. So stay tuned. Hopefully this video was helpful. And now you know when you go to start a car that's been sitting for a while, what you need to do so when you start it up, the engine won't get damaged. Now I need to get a fuel pump and I also need to get a battery. This thing is amazing. I love these little jump starters.